Hi, this is Ajay Anand. Welcome to science classes of excelup.com. In this video, I will be talking about evolution. You will learn about evolution, then about Darwin's theory of evolution, speciation, about evolution and classification, that is phylogenetic classification, and about the human evolution. So, what is evolution? Evolution is defined as the change in inherited traits in biological population over subsequent generations. So, there is a biological population in which certain traits they change over subsequent generation, and after the accumulation of such changes over many generations, say hundreds of generations, the cumulative effect of change is so much that the change becomes marked enough to cause the evolution of a new species. Okay, so evolution is a gradual process. Now, how evolution may have happened can be illustrated by some hypothetical examples. So, there are three cases: case 1, case 2 and case 3. So, in case 1, let us assume there is a lawn full of green grasses on which a small population of ants lives. These ants, they are loved by the crows which live nearby. The crows enjoy feasting on these ants. So, all of the ants, they are of red color. So, for crows it is very easy to spot red ants against the green background. Now, because of say some mutation, an ant develops blue color. So, for a crow it is difficult or almost impossible to spot a blue ant against the green background. So, what happens? The red ants, they are getting eaten away by the crows, while the blue ants, they survive because of the camouflage. A time comes when all the red ants, they are wiped off, and the blue ants, they survive because of the advantage of camouflage. So, what started as a mutation, a small mutation, it resulted in a survival advantage to the ants, and because of that a new character, it came to light, and maybe an altogether new species, it evolved from the colony of red ants. Now, this is case 2. So, in case 2, there is the same story. The red ants, they are living in a lawn of grass. Okay. So, by mutation, one of the ants, it becomes blue in color, and along with the red ants, it also reproduces, producing more of its progeny. Once an elephant comes and it runs amok on the lawn, by chance the elephant crushes most of the red elephants, and the blue elephants, they survive the onslaught. So, what happens at the end? Only blue ants, they remain in the grass, and all the red ants, they perish because of the accident. So, here it was because of some survival advantage that the blue color, it became the predominant color among the ants, and here this was because of the accident. But in both the cases, the blue color, it was a change in the genotype. It was because of a change in the genotype, and that is why it was inherited, and it resulted in evolution of a new species. Now, this is the case 3rd. In this case also, a group of red ants is living in a lawn. Now, because of drought, the population of grass, it reduces drastically, and there is food shortage for ants. So, because of shortage of foods, all of the ants, they become underweight, they become malnourished, and for subsequent generation, all the ants reproduce, they are very thin, undernourished and underweight. Okay. Now, after many generations, the favorable conditions returned for the grasses, and once again the grasses bloom, the population of grasses increases, and this supplies plenty of food to the ants. So now once again the ants, they regain their lost health, and all the ants, they become of proper weight. So since this underweight issue, it could not result in the change in genotype, so it could not be inherited to the subsequent generation, and it did not result in evolution of a new species. That is how most of the traits, they get inherited. If some of the traits, it results in survival benefits, or maybe because of some accident, that is called genetic drift, new species can evolve. But in case there is no change in genotype, as in the case 3, no new species will evolve. Now Darwin's theory. Darwin is often revered as the father of evolution. When Darwin was quite young, he was around 22 years of age, then when he undertook the long voyage on a ship, and he traveled all around the world studying and analyzing different species of animals and plants, and compiling records. And after he finished his journey, he worked on those records and came up with a wonderful book that is titled The Origin of Species. In his book, Darwin gave his theory of evolution. So some key points of Darwin's theory are: the living beings, they have unlimited capacity of reproduction. Say for example, there is an ant. An ant can lay around 30 to 40,000 eggs at one go, but there are limited resources. So all the eggs, they cannot get enough food or oxygen, and most of the eggs, they'll be killed by the predators. Some of the eggs, they'll be killed by accident, say landslide or flooding or anything. Okay, and then because of limited resources, what happens? Very few of them will survive, because there is tough competition for survival, for the claim on resources. Say for example, there is a tree which is full of juicy fruits. Now the tree is inhabited by a gang of monkeys. So all of the monkeys, each of the monkeys, it will want to have the best fruits. So there will be tough competition among them. The strongest monkey, it will be able to grab the fruit, and the weakest one, it may not be able to get food. So there comes the role of natural selection. Nature selects only those organisms which are better fit to survive in the changed circumstances, and that is how the Darwin said, survival of the fittest. The fittest, the organisms which are fittest to survive in the changed environmental conditions, they only survive, and others, they perish in the process. And finally, this leads to evolution of a new species. Evolution and classification. In your previous class, you read about biological classification. So before that, let us try to understand about speciation. The formation of a new species is called speciation. Speciation is that what is species? The members of the species, they can breed among themselves. That is the prime characteristic to put a particular organisms or members in a particular species. So it cannot breed with the members of another species. Okay. So speciation can happen because of segregation. Say there is a population. If the population is segregated into two groups, and the members of both the groups, they are unable to meet for a very long time, for many generations, then a time comes that members of one group may not be able to breed with the members of another group. So then it results in the formation of two new species. Okay, so this can happen because of geographical segregation, when there can be long distance segregation. So let us recall the example of ants on the lawn. Say when the elephants came, some of the ants, they got stuck to the foot of elephant, and they were transported to say hundreds of miles away from that spot. So the new group, it may not get a chance to meet with the members of the old group. So time will come after maybe thousands of generations that both the groups, they will evolve as new species. So that is how species they tend to evolve. Now the classification, it is based on evolutionary relationship. So the topmost taxa of classification is called kingdom. You can recall the 5 kingdom classification by Robert Whittaker. And the lowermost taxa is called species. So what is the difference between kingdom and species? The members of species, they have more common characters. Say all the human beings, they have more common characters. Okay, so all of them, they'll be upright walking, have a larger brain compared to other animals. They can use their hands for handling tools and so on and so forth. But human beings, they are put in the same category as other mammals are. So a lion or a cow or a chimpanzee or a human, all of them, they have certain common characters, but the number of common characters is less compared to what it is for the members of the Homo sapiens species. Now let us move up to the kingdom. So here what will happen, the number of common characters, it will become lesser. So let us take the example of the kingdom Animalia. So what are the common characters? They are multicellular, the cells do not have cell wall, and all of them, they are heterotrophs. So these are the common characters, right? So in this category, you can see unicellular animals, small insects, invertebrates, vertebrates, and all of them, they are highly different from each other, but all of them, they are kept in one kingdom because of certain common characters. So the way evolution happened, more species they got added on. We moved on to division from kingdom to order, then to genus, then to family and species and so on. Okay. So because of this evolutionary relationship among different ladders of classification or different taxons of classification, this is called evolutionary classification or phylogenetic classification. Now there are certain proofs which show that evolution has happened. So one of the proofs is homologous organs and another is analogous organs. The organs which have similar architecture but serve different functions in different organisms, they are called homologous organs. So these figures, they show 4 limbs of frog and human. So both of them have similar architecture, same bone for the upper arm, that is humerus, then forearm bones, they are called radio and ulna, then carpals and metacarpals for fingers. The forelimb of frogs is utilized for jumping, while in case of humans, it is utilized for handling tools. Okay. So the similar architecture, it shows that both frogs and humans, they have common ancestry. They have evolved from a common ancestor. Now let us come to analogous organs. So this is the wing of bird and this is the wing of bat. Both of them, they serve the same purpose, that is flying, but both of them, they have different architecture. So in case of the wing of bat, the wing is a membrane which is mainly wrapped around the bones of fingers, digits, the carpals. In case of birds, the architecture of finger or the skeleton of finger is all the bones of the forearm, that is humerus, radio ulna, carpals, metacarpals, all the bones, they are involved in the formation of wings. So that is the difference, and this shows that they have no common ancestors. They have come from different lineages. So this is the story of analogous organs. Fossils. The preserved remains of organisms from distant past are called fossils. So many fossils have been found and they tell us a lot about those organisms which no longer exist on earth, which have become extinct. Say for example dinosaurs, we could come to know about dinosaurs because of fossils. Some of the fossils, they also give a clue of missing link. which establishes the relationship between two groups. Say one of the animals is called Archaeopteryx. It appears like a bird and also like a reptile. So an Archaeopteryx has beaks, as beaks are present in birds. It also has teeth, which are not which are absent in birds. So teeth are present in reptiles. Okay, Archaeopteryx has feathers also. So this shows that birds, they must have evolved from reptiles. Now another point is, interesting point is evolution by stages. So evolution cannot happen overnight. Any new character, it takes time to evolve. It happens in stages. It is a very gradual process and it can take millions of years. So this example is about Aich, the evolution of Aich. This is planaria, this is a dragonfly, and this is human eye. So planaria, it does not have eye. It has light sensitive spots, that is known as eye spots. They are sensitive to light and give some information about the environment to the planaria. Okay. Now dragonflies, they have compound eyes. They serve their own purpose. Dragonflies, they are adept with working with compound eyes. Then the humans, they evolved simple eyes. It gives better depth perception, maybe better sense of colors and all the things. So it must have taken millions of years to evolve from here, the simple eye spots, to the simple eyes of humans. And that is how different organs must have evolved. Another example is of evolution of feathers. So first of all, feathers appeared in reptiles, in dinosaurs, and the purpose was insulation against the heat and cold. But later on in birds, the feathers, they evolved to assist in flight. And now the feathers of birds, they are flight adaptations rather than insulatory mechanism. Artificial evolution. So human beings, they have caused much evolution in certain plants, and that is a very good proof to establish that evolution indeed happens. So this example is from wild cabbage. Wild cabbage has been cultivated since around 2000 years by people, and people have been able to develop many vegetables from wild cabbage. For example, kohlrabi, it has a soul in a stem. Cauliflower and broccoli, they have inflorescence. Cabbage is composed of leaves only, and the leaves are tightly wrapped around each other. Then kale, they too also have leaves, but they are not tightly wrapped like the way it is in cabbage. So this shows that natural evolution must have taken place, and that is why we see such a great degree of biodiversity all around us. Now one question is, does evolution means progress? The answer is, it depends from which perspective you look at evolution or progress. So if we consider the degree of complexity as evolution, then yeah, the evolution means progress. So human beings, they are considered the most complex organisms on earth. So compared to a cockroach or a bacteria, they will be considered as more evolved. But when we go back to the theory of Darwin, that is survival of the fittest, when the survival becomes the sole criteria, then some bacteria, they are more evolved than human beings, because archaebacteria, they are known to survive the extreme conditions of sulfur springs. Some of the bacteria, they are known to survive even at the crater of volcanoes, where human beings, they cannot survive. Okay, so it depends whether it is progress or not. Now this map shows the evolution of Homo sapiens, that is the modern human. The most accepted theory is out of Africa theory. As per this theory, the modern humans, that is Homo sapiens, they evolved around 200,000 years back in the African continent. Then they started moving out in search of food, shelter and better opportunity. So a time came around 100,000 years ago that they reached around the Mediterranean Sea, that is around Middle East, and from there they got separated into two branches. One of the branches, it went to Western Europe around 40,000 years ago, and that is how human settlement developed here. Another branch, it went towards Asia. It reached India around 70,000 years ago. From there, it went to Australia by traversing through Indonesia and other islands to Australia, then to these islands like New Zealand and Papua New Guinea. Another branch, it went to China and to Siberia and these areas around 25,000 years ago. One branch, it went past this bridge of land from Asia to enter North America, and from North America it spread to different parts of northeastern America, eastern portion of North America around 12,000 to 4,500 years ago. And one of the branches, it went to the South American continent at around 12,000 years ago. So that is how the modern human, Homo sapiens, started from Africa and spread to all over the world. So I discussed about evolution, the Darwin's theory of evolution, about certain proofs of evolution like phylogenetic classification, fossils, then homologous organs, analogous organs, and finally I talked about the out of Africa theory about the evolution of modern humans, that is Homo sapiens. So that's all. Thank you.